Something sacred is unfolding. August 17th is not just another mark on the calendar. It is a portal of energetic precision, a moment where the unseen stirs, where the closeness of others may reveal the unrest still living inside of you. It's not a day that arrives with noise, with chaos, or with confrontation. Instead, it enters gently, like a whisper in the soul, exposing what is fragile, what is forming, and what must be protected at all costs. This particular moment isn't about drama or difficulty. It's not about problems or conflict that scream for attention. It's more nuanced than that. On this day, the greatest test may come from those who love you most, those who are familiar, those who approach with warmth or concern or casual conversation. You may receive a message, a request, a spontaneous invitation, perhaps even something that feels harmless, maybe even helpful. But something about it will feel off. Not in the words themselves, but in the energy behind them. Their presence may carry an unconscious weight, a vibration that doesn't belong in your field right now. Not because they mean you harm, but because your spirit is in a state of refinement. You're tender in places you may not even fully understand yet. And when you're in the middle of becoming, even kindness can be too loud if it comes at the wrong frequency. This is not about blaming anyone. It's about being radically honest about where you are. And the truth is, your soul is undergoing a calibration. You're being brought into alignment with something higher, something deeper, something unshakably real. To allow even a small disruption today could cause a ripple that misaligns that process. Oh, if you've been feeling the need to pull back lately, to be alone, to go inward, to be quiet without reason or apology, that urge isn't avoidance. It's preservation. It's your inner compass guiding you towards solitude, not as isolation, but as sacred protection. Not every day calls for boundaries this clear, but August 17th does. This is not the day to open your doors wide. It's the day to close them softly, firmly, without guilt. There are seasons for connection, for vulnerability, for opening wide to the world. But this is not that season. Not today. Today is a day for spiritual sovereignty. For guarding your energetic space with the same care you would offer to something precious, something growing, something just beginning to bloom. You may begin to sense it in small, almost imperceptible ways. The way someone says your name might carry a strange undertone. A familiar conversation might feel heavier than usual. A glance, a word, an emoji might linger in your mind longer than it should. And you might ask yourself, why is this bothering me? But the truth is, it's not the message that's bothering you. It's the transmission behind it, the energetic undercurrent, the unspoken expectation, the subtle pull on your spirit. That's when you'll know. The shift is beginning. August 17th is not about confrontation. It's about awakening. It's about recognizing how much you've grown and how differently you now respond to energy that once felt normal. You used to soften yourself to avoid discomfort. You used to say yes to maintain peace. You allowed access not because someone earned it, but because they always had it. But now you're evolving. And with that evolution comes the responsibility to honor your transformation. You don't need to make a grand exit. You don't have to block or ghost or push people away. But you do need to remain where the energy is still, where your nervous system isn't forced to interpret mixed signals or carry the emotional weight of someone else's confusion. You are not required to hold space for projections today. Not when your inner atmosphere is this exact, this holy, this sensitive, the most innocent presence, the kindest voice, might unknowingly test your growth. They're not doing it intentionally. They're simply meeting you with a memory of who you used to be. But that version of you is dissolving. Quietly, beautifully, without permission. And not everyone gets access to what comes next. There is no cruelty in choosing space. There is no selfishness in declining invitations that don't align. You do not owe the world a version of you that no longer exists. And while it may feel uncomfortable to protect your stillness from those who once felt safe, discomfort is sometimes the cost of realignment. When you feel hesitation today, honor it. When you feel the need to pause before replying, trust that pause. When your body says, not right now, believe it. That's not fear speaking. That's wisdom. That's clarity. That's your higher self reminding you that this part of your journey requires solitude, stillness, and sovereignty. Let your silence speak for you. Let your boundaries hum quietly in the background. You're not responsible for how others interpret your need for space. Some will misunderstand. Some may label your silence as distance or even coldness. Let them. This is not the season for being understood. This is the season for being whole. August 17th is not about pleasing others. It's about protecting the becoming. It's about recognizing that the energy you allow into your space becomes part of your vibration. And the version of you that is now emerging cannot afford to be shaped by anything less than divine alignment. This is not about rejection or resistance. This is about reverence. Deep, sacred reverence for your own unfolding. You are building something inside of you that must be nurtured in stillness. Even well-meaning energy, if it arrives too forcefully or out of sync, can scatter what you've been so carefully constructing. So today, step back. Not out of anger, but out of awareness. Not as punishment, but as protection. Your decision to choose quiet, to delay a response, to stay in your own energy even when others reach for you. This is the act of spiritual maturity. This is the sacred pause that allows clarity to grow. The energies surrounding August 17th are not subtle. They are deeply cosmic, divinely timed. The moon may draw emotional truths to the surface. The sun, bold and unwavering, will illuminate the spaces where truth and illusion still tangle. And you will feel it, not just mentally, but physically, emotionally, spiritually. The field around you is thin, sensitive, and profoundly receptive. What you say, what you think, what you entertain today, it all vibrates at a higher level of influence. Every word you speak echoes louder. Every action you take sends a clearer signal into the universe. And if those words, those actions are not rooted in full self-awareness, they may ripple out in ways you can't control. That's why on a day like this, the most powerful thing you can do might be nothing at all. Not the message, not the phone call, not the explanation or the apology. Sometimes the highest vibration is stillness. Sometimes the truest answer is no response at all. Sometimes the real work is in trusting that if something is meant to be shared, it will come through you when it's fully ready to hold the weight of truth. This isn't performative spirituality. This isn't about looking awakened. This is about actually aligning with what your spirit is telling you in real time. And today, it's telling you to protect your frequency, to move with precision, to let others feel what they feel without rearranging yourself to soothe them. Because this version of you, the one rising now, doesn't belong to the past. It doesn't belong to their memories. It belongs to the future. And that future begins with how you honor yourself today. So breathe. Stay close to your own rhythm. Stay rooted in your own space. Let August 17th be the day you finally stop explaining your boundaries and start embodying them. Let this be the day you understand that true protection isn't a reaction. It's a decision. There are days when life brushes past you gently, almost imperceptibly. Days when the air feels different but you can't quite say why. On such days, a seemingly innocent message, a casual check-in, or a softly worded question might arrive, disguised as love, cloaked in concern, or veiled as nostalgia. It won't come loud or demanding. It will come quietly, almost sweetly. But that quiet doesn't make it right. Because not everything that feels gentle is aligned with where you are now. You've outgrown certain frequencies. Your energy has shifted, evolved, matured. And yet, the past has a way of whispering at just the right volume to reach the version of you it used to know. The version that would have answered, that would have gone back, that would have dimmed her light to match someone else's shadow. But now you're not there anymore. You've moved. Maybe not far on the outside, but inside, you've traveled galaxies. This is why you may feel a strange tightness in your chest, a sudden swell of emotion, a longing that comes with no clear source. It's the moon pulling your memory toward old shores, while the sun lights up doubts you thought you'd left behind. There may be nothing tangibly wrong in your life, and yet you feel exposed, raw, like the veil between who you were and who you're becoming is thinned. That's not confusion. That's clarity breaking through before your mind has had a chance to catch up. Your intuition will rise louder than your logic today. This is not a day for decisions made from the head. This is a day for stillness, for breathing deeply, for feeling fully, for letting the world move around you while you hold your own center like a sacred flame. And when the invitation comes, because it will, when someone you care for says something that tugs at your heart or stirs your loyalty, pause. Don't answer right away. Don't fill the silence too quickly. Sit with it. Ask yourself, is this moment calling to who I am or to who I no longer am? Let that question echo, because the answer will cut through the fog with grace. Your response today isn't just a reply, it's a key, a signal, a door. What you say yes to now, even in the subtlest ways, could realign you with a path you've already outgrown. And you've come too far to walk backwards. You may feel an old version of yourself stirring. The one who replied immediately, who made herself available just because someone needed her, who softened her voice, compromised her needs, offered her time, her energy, her spirit, just to keep the peace. But peace built on your silence is not peace. It's sacrifice disguised as love. Today, choose stillness instead of speed. Choose space instead of automatic closeness. Choose the self you're becoming, not the comfort of who you've been. This doesn't make you distant. It makes you discerning. You're not disappearing, you're deepening. And the people who are meant to walk beside you will understand the shift, or they'll learn to. Either way, you're no longer bending, so others don't have to stretch. There may be people who reach for you, surprised by your silence. They may ask softly or sharply, "Are you okay?" And the most honest answer might be, "Yes, I finally am," because for once, you're not chasing the rhythm of someone else's need. You're honoring your own, that it's okay to let the message sit unread, to let the chat bubble linger unanswered, to allow your heart its own timing. You're not required to offer explanations just because someone reached out. Not today. You don't owe access to anyone simply because they're used to having it. This day carries a different kind of weight, the kind that tests your alignment without dramatic confrontation. There will be no fireworks or warnings, just a subtle sense that your pace is changing, and not everyone is meant to keep up. You may notice time moving oddly, moments that stretch out like they want you to listen more closely, or hours that vanish in the blink of an eye. You'll move through familiar places, yet they won't feel the same. People may speak to you in ways that reveal more than they intend. Others may avoid eye contact altogether. The energy will be dense, not in a heavy or oppressive way, but in a way that asks you to be fully here, fully in your own field. This isn't a time to fix or perform or explain yourself. It's a time to witness, to watch yourself not fall into the pattern you usually do, to feel the strength it takes to say nothing when your impulse is to rush in and make things okay, to see how peace begins to grow not from comfort, but from clarity. And yes, someone may circle back, someone who once had easy access to you, someone who's used your softness, who interprets your silence as distance or disapproval. But silence isn't punishment. It's power. It's the sacred ground where clarity blooms. If they can't stand the quiet, it was never about connection. It was about control. Today is not about cutting cords. It's about seeing which ones are frayed and no longer serve. It's about recognizing that love, true love, can exist with space. That the bonds meant to last can breathe without constant contact. You are not selfish for choosing solitude. You are not cold for honoring your own timing. You are not wrong for letting someone you care for sit in your silence, even if just for today. Because if love requires you to betray your own becoming, it was never really love, it was habit. And you are not here to be remembered as you were. You are here to become something you've never been allowed to be. When the message arrives, as it inevitably will, let it rest. Let the need to respond fall away like old skin. And if you do reply, let it be from your truth, not your training. Let it be from presence, not pressure. If they are meant to walk with you, they will. If they are not, then your stillness will show you what words never could. The bond that breaks in silence was never stable to begin with. The connection that asks you to shrink was never sacred. Let it go, and later, maybe tonight, maybe in the morning, you'll feel something loosen. A strange lightness, a softness in your breath, a recognition that something passed, and you remained rooted. That for once, you didn't get swept away. That this time, the wave came and went, and you stayed whole. This is the shift. Not loud, not dramatic, but real. August 17th is not about endings. It's about becoming more precise. More you. It's not about who you leave behind. It's about who you finally let yourself be. And sometimes the most powerful move you'll make is to stay silent. You're beginning to see it now, with clarity that wasn't accessible before. Not because you were trying to figure people out, not because you were dissecting every interaction, but because you finally gave yourself permission to become still. In that rare and honest quiet, something profound emerged. Silence became your mirror. And in that mirror, you didn't just witness the world, you witnessed truth. You noticed who kept showing up and who slowly, almost imperceptibly, pulled away. You saw who honored the space you created without pushing for access, and who knocked on your emotional doors repeatedly, not to connect, but simply to be heard, validated, or let back in. And for the first time, perhaps ever, you didn't feel guilty about how little you gave in return. Because what you did give was priceless. Space to breathe, protection from noise, and the radical act of turning inward when everything around you demanded outward reaction. What you offered yourself wasn't neglect, it was nourishment. That stillness, that silence, that pause, it was everything you didn't realize you were allowed to want, let alone need. It was sacred. It's not easy, though. Holding silence in a world addicted to noise takes more strength than most realize, especially when someone you care about looks to you for a reaction, for a word, for an explanation. When their presence leans in and your energy, for reasons you can't quite articulate, leans away, you hesitate. Your mouth opens, then closes again. Because you sense that if you speak, if you say yes when your spirit is saying no, something inside of you might fracture, even if just a little. So you remain quiet. And the moment, without drama, passes. Later, in reflection, you'll recognize it as a turning point. Not because something grand happened, but because you happened. You didn't abandon yourself to be understood. You didn't perform emotional availability out of fear. You didn't reopen a door simply because someone familiar knocked. And that mattered. Not because it made you right, but because it made you whole. That choice, that silence, was a decision to trust your energy over your guilt, your inner knowing over social obligation, because sometimes caring deeply means stepping back, not out of anger, but out of respect, for yourself, for the connection, for the unspoken truth hanging in the air. You learn something sacred in that quiet, that presence isn't proof of love, that a response isn't a requirement of compassion, and that silence isn't empty, it's full of wisdom. And on a day like August 17th, when the atmosphere felt heavy without explanation, when your heart felt tight and your thoughts seemed tangled, you began to understand something deeper was at play. The air didn't lie. The tension in your body wasn't just fatigue. It was energy responding to misalignment. The words that felt stuck in your throat weren't laziness. They were boundaries asserting themselves before your brain could explain why. The universe has its own language. And on days like today, that language speaks through sensation. A gentle cosmic disruption. A spiritual adjustment. The sun, stationed boldly in Leo, calls for authenticity over performance, for clarity over comfort. It's asking, are you living in truth or in habit? Meanwhile, the moon, always stirring the tides of your inner world, pulled up emotional sediment you thought had settled long ago. These forces, solar fire and lunar shadow, created a mirror so honest, even those you love could cast unintentional darkness. But instead of reacting, you paused. And that pause changed everything. So maybe today felt strange, like your skin didn't fit quite right. Like conversations, usually fluid, felt forced. Like even the kindest faces couldn't meet your eyes in the same way. That's not paranoia, it's perception. And your nervous system, it's a compass. Listen to it. Don't override it just to avoid awkwardness or make others comfortable. When your gut says something's off, it usually is. That feeling, that pullback, is not rejection. It's protection. And protection isn't selfish, it's sacred. Even if others don't understand it, even if they feel hurt by your distance, even if they question your silence, because their confusion is not yours to carry. Your responsibility is to your clarity, to your center. You were never meant to be everyone's sanctuary, especially not at the expense of your own well-being. That's not peacekeeping, that's self-abandonment. And you're done with that. You've outgrown the role of emotional sponge. You may not have all the words for it yet, but your body knows the shift is real. You may have felt it the moment you woke up today. A quiet nudge, a sense that something was different. Maybe you noticed yourself hesitating before responding to a text, avoiding certain interactions, questioning long-held dynamics. Maybe someone you usually trust said something that didn't sit right, and instead of brushing it off, you felt it. You let it land. You didn't flinch, but you didn't deny it either, because you've reached a threshold. An energetic edge. A point in your becoming where anything misaligned simply cannot remain hidden. And no matter how familiar it is, no matter how much history exists, not every relationship is meant to accompany your next chapter. That's not a loss. That's a release. And release, when it comes from clarity, is a form of grace that I sow today. Instead of explaining yourself, you observed. Instead of defending your choices, you sat with them. Instead of softening your intuition to make others more comfortable, you held firm. And yes, it may have made things feel unresolved. But not everything needs closure. Some moments just need to breathe. Some endings don't require announcements. Some truths are better honored in silence. This wasn't about teaching anyone a lesson. You weren't trying to prove a point. You were simply remembering your own. That your peace does not need public validation to be real. That your inner knowing doesn't require consensus to be trusted. That just because someone is close doesn't mean their energy is clean. And when it's not, even if it hurts, it's okay to take space. That space is not the absence of love. It is the presence of self-love. It is a radical reclaiming of your energy, your voice, your rhythm. And it's necessary, especially now, because something sacred is rising within you. Slowly, quietly, but unmistakably. And growth like this doesn't happen in noise. It happens in stillness. It doesn't happen in explanation. It happens in alignment. So when the world leans in and you lean back, don't apologize. Don't shrink. Don't second-guess your boundaries just because others don't like them. You're not here to carry everyone. You're here to carry truth. And truth, especially when whispered, is powerful beyond measure. So, as the weight of August 17th begins to lift, as the evening light softens, as the sky prepares to turn again, feel into the quiet. Notice the calm, that peace you feel. You didn't find it. There are moments in life that look ordinary from the outside, but internally, they shift everything. Today was one of those moments. You may not have realized it at first. It might have begun like any other day. A message from someone who checks in, but somehow every time they do, you feel a little smaller, a little more exhausted. A conversation with a family member whose concern always feels like quiet control, wrapped in care but laced with judgment. Or maybe it was a partner, someone close, who claims to love you, but only the version of you that stays still, doesn't change, doesn't grow. And you've been holding it in. You've been calling it normal. You've dressed it up in the language of loyalty, in the name of love. You've minimized your discomfort, laughed off the tension in your chest, and labeled the tightness in your throat as distress. But today, something cracked. Not in a violent way, but in a quiet, irreversible one. The universe didn't let you dismiss it this time. It didn't let you smooth it over. You might have felt it in the subtle moments. The way your heart sank at a familiar phrase. The invisible wall you put up mid-conversation. That deep breath you had to take before replying to something that shouldn't have needed effort. These weren't accidents. They were signals, clear, undeniable messages from your body, your nervous system, your spirit. They were telling you what your mind has been too loyal or too afraid to admit. And here's the truth. This awareness didn't come to hurt you. It came to awaken you. That IT was a divine nudge, a spiritual checkpoint. A reminder that growth often begins in discomfort. That not everyone who started with you is meant to go where you're heading. That access to your presence does not equal entitlement to your energy, especially when there is no accountability attached to it. And this time, your body didn't ignore the signs. You felt how hard it was to stay centered in spaces that used to feel familiar. You noticed how much energy it took to maintain the appearance of peace, to pretend you're okay when something inside you is begging to be heard. Your smile didn't quite reach your eyes. You said, "I'm fine," but something deeper whispered the truth, "You're not." And that doesn't mean you're broken. That's data. That's wisdom. That's your spirit saying, enough. And today, you finally listened. For perhaps the first time, you didn't rush to explain your silence. You didn't try to fix their misunderstanding. You didn't bend yourself backward to make someone else feel secure in your discomfort. Instead, you paused. You breathed. You observed. And in that pause, in that silence, there was power. Not avoidance, alignment. This wasn't about walking away from everyone. It was about seeing things clearly. Seeing who supports your growth and who only supports your stillness. Who uplifts your expansion and who silently hopes you stay small so they can stay comfortable. And maybe for once, you cancel the plans without guilt. You let the call go to voicemail. You didn't offer an excuse for needing space. That wasn't a retreat. That was a return to yourself, to your center, to your boundaries, your intuition, your peace. Let this be said without apology. You don't owe anyone an explanation for protecting your energy. If someone can't understand your need for silence, for space, for growth, that's not your burden to carry. Let them misunderstand. Let them assume. The story your silence tells is louder and more truthful than any defense ever could be. Because today wasn't just another day. It was sacred. A spiritual pivot. A soul checkpoint. The universe placed a mirror in front of you, not to shame you, but to show you how much you've grown. You didn't abandon anyone. You simply stopped abandoning yourself. And in that decision, in that stillness, you chose a new path. A higher one. One where your peace is non-negotiable. One where your worth is not determined by how much you can tolerate, give, or explain. You're no longer trying to rescue people from the consequences of their own energy. You're no longer using overgiving as a way to feel worthy. And that's not cold. That's not selfish. That's sacred self-respect. That's healing in motion. And make no mistake, today was a test. Not one marked by drama or explosions, but by patterns, repetition, subtle tension, a quiet shift in your internal response. Things that used to feel normal suddenly felt heavy. Words that used to roll off your back now landed differently. And for once, you didn't brush it aside. You saw it, felt it, honored it. You probably noticed who reached out to connect and who reached out to consume. Who asked how you were and actually meant it, and who only called because they needed something. These weren't coincidences. These were revelations. This was the universe separating what no longer aligns from what's meant to grow with you. And it wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. It spoke in discomfort, in pauses, in a silence that no longer felt like fear, but instead freedom. This is the threshold, the space between who you were and who you are becoming. And once you've stood in that space, truly stood in it, you can't go back to pretending you don't know better. You can't unsee what you've now seen. And more importantly, you can't unknow your own worth. So when life hands you similar moments again, and you'll respond differently. You won't rush to reassure. You won't abandon your truth to soothe someone else's discomfort. You'll breathe, pause, listen, and let your alignment speak for itself. This is your evolution in real time. It's not wrapped in fireworks, but in quiet strength. It's not always about saying the right thing. It's about knowing when silence holds more power. It's about choosing peace, even if it means some people walk away. It's about letting go of connections that demand your sacrifice, but never your wholeness. Because August 17th wasn't a day of endings. It was a day of clarity, of realignment. A divine checkpoint showing you who's capable of walking with you into this next chapter. It was only meant to walk with you until you finally remembered who you are. So tonight, exhale. Let the tension fall from your shoulders. Let the guilt dissolve. You didn't lose anything real today. You reclaimed something sacred, yourself, and that changes everything. From this point on, you're no longer seeking closure in chaos. You're not negotiating your boundaries. You're not sacrificing your energy for proximity. You're choosing discernment over desperation. Peace over performance. Truth over tradition. This is the gift August 17th brought you. Not in noise, but in nuance. A silent shift that changed the direction of your future. A soul-deep confirmation that you're ready for something more aligned, more honest, more real. And when the world asks you to prove it, you won't have to say a word. Your energy will say it all, because you passed the test. And what's coming next will meet you where you are now, not where you used to be.